Learning is a journey of exploration and discovery, and this time we are guided by compasses rather than maps. Good day everyone, this is Jackie Lucy Lagos from BSed Mathematics 3 of Negros Oriental State University, Shatan Campus. And today, we will be discussing Module 8 or the curricular landscape in the 21st century. So it has been said, written and published how different technological advancement changed and affected the ways of living of all humankind. Everything transitioned from being done manually to incorporating different information and communication technologies as time goes by. In the government, all sectors are expected to abide and adapt to these changes. Hence, the education sector is not an exception. In this module, we will be taken to how technological advancement affected our classrooms, which is now commonly known as the 21st century classrooms. Particularly in this lesson 8.1 or the 21st century curricular landscape in the classrooms, we will discuss what are the arising factors that lead to the changes and development in the curriculum. Also, we will be identifying what skills should be learned or developed in order to cope up in this rapidly changing world. So here are our desired learning outcomes. Describe the curricular landscape of the 21st century classrooms and identified the 21st century skills to be developed in the curriculum. So let's begin our discussion by defining a 21st century classroom. So it is a classroom that incorporates modern technology meaningfully into lessons to enhance students' learning and prepare them for a future in our tech-driven world. So instead of just solely using Manila papers and chalkboards during discussions, we transition into incorporating different information and communication technologies such as making presentations in explaining a topic and are presented to the use of screen projectors, laptops, and or computers. Also, when we talk about 21st century classroom, we are introduced to these terms: outcome-based education, borderless education, teachers as facilitator of the learning process, and higher order thinking skills. Now, when we talk about outcome-based education, it means to start with a clear picture which are essential for the students as they go through their learning experience. So, we are talking here about the learning outcomes. Learning outcomes are defined at the start of every discussion of a certain topic. It favors not only making students demonstrate what they knew, but also apply what they knew. With this new approach in education, outcome is given emphasis. Curriculum instruction and assessment is organized to ensure that the learning outcome will be evident. Now let's proceed to borderless education. So it encompasses a wide range of activities from online trainings, offshore campuses, technology-assisted teaching, and franchising of curricula. Its basic objective is to provide a platform to maximize the potential and performance of all the people across the globe through a multidimensional and multi-level interactions. So when we talk about borderless education, we are learning with people across the globe even though they are miles away from us. So distant learning is an example of a borderless education, like what we have right now. Video tutorials are also examples of borderless education wherein we learn from professionals across the globe through different platforms, and this is through the use of modern technologies. Moving further, let's discuss about teachers as facilitators of learning. So this is a change of view in education because of different technological advancements. Students don't only get knowledge from teachers but also from various sources accessible through technology. Hence, teachers are not anymore spoon feeders of information but facilitators who assist in the students' learning process. So when we are talking about teachers as facilitator, we will be also introduced to inquiry-based lessons wherein students can ask questions as well as develop new ideas from a given topic. As facilitators, teachers are encouraged to assess work transparently. They must give clear feedbacks, constructive criticism, and provide mechanics or rubrics on how the students will be graded on their projects, performances, or any activities. In addition, teachers are also expected to encourage students to have strong reasoning and reflection to discussion. So, students must be able to reason out their choices of answer, not just simply yes or no, as well as reflect their topic on a real life scenarios. Then we have higher order thinking skills. So it distinguishes critical thinking skills from low-order learning outcomes, such as those attained by rote memorization. Higher-order thinking skills include analysis, evaluation, and creating. So when we talk about analysis, it involves examining concepts or ideas to break them down into basic parts. So it is breaking material into its parts and detecting how they work together. When we talk about evaluation, it is the capability to use standards and criteria to support opinions and views. It is making judgment based on criteria and standards. When we talk about creating or to create, it means assembling parts of knowledge into a whole using creative thinking and problem-solving skills. So it is putting elements together to form a new, coherent, and original product or idea. Let's proceed to the discussion of emerging curricula of the 21st century. So here are our guide questions as we go on with this discussion. How does the curriculum for the 21st century look like, and what are the emerging factors and conditions that will shape the curriculum of the century? So let's begin by comparing a 21st century classroom to a traditional classroom. So in terms of the physical environment in a traditional classroom, it is a symmetry method wherein students are in rows, very quiet and very still. Learners work in isolation, classrooms is within four walls, and it is a teacher-centered classroom wherein teacher is the center of attention and provider of information. Also, teacher controls everything that the students do or at least attempts to do so. But in a 21st century classroom, its physical environment has no rows. Classrooms have a variety of learning spaces in which students move about freely. Learners work collaboratively. Classroom expands to the campus itself, then to the community from local to global. Also, it is a student-centered classroom wherein teacher is the facilitator or coach. Students use information they have located to construct their knowledge and understanding. It is a classroom wherein students are self-directed, moving from independent activities to interdependent activities as needed. Then in terms of the emotional environment, under a traditional classroom, it has discipline problems. Educators do not trust students and vice versa. So there is no student motivation. It has little to no student freedom also. It has low expectations. Curriculum or school is irrelevant and meaningless to the students. Students must raise hand to speak or ask a question. But in a 21st century classroom, it has no discipline problems. Students and teachers have mutually respectful relationship as co-learners, so students are highly motivated. It has a great deal of student freedom. It has high expectations, so if it isn't good, it isn't done. That is believed in a 21st century classroom. Then, the curriculum is connected to students' interests, experiences, talents, and the real world. So its room or area is filled with the sounds of students collaborating, teaching each other, researching, designing, and creating. Now, in terms of the academic environment, in a traditional classroom, it focuses on memorization of facts. So lessons focus on the lower level of Bloom's taxonomy. So those are knowledge, comprehension, and application, or the remember, understand, and apply. Then it is a textbook-driven classroom. It is passive learning, and it is time-based. So see, time is what counts. There is no allowance for the fact that students learn at different rates. Also, it is a fragmented curriculum. The curriculum is test-prep, marching through the standards one by one, and teacher is the only judge, no one else sees student work. Printed materials is the primary vehicle of learning and assessment. Also, diversity in students is ignored. In the traditional classroom also, literacy involves the three R's only: reading, writing, and arithmetic. However, in a 21st century classroom, its academic environment focus on what students know, can do, and are like after all the details are forgotten. So learning is designed on upper levels of Bloom's taxonomy. So those are the higher order thinking skills, which is to analyze, evaluate, and create, or analysis, evaluation, and creating, and include lower levels as curriculum is designed down from the top. Then, research driven. Students construct their knowledge as they conduct research. Then it is an active learning environment. Then it is outcome-based, wherein the point here is not seat time, but demonstrating that the learning outcomes were achieved whenever that may be. Also, it is an integrated and interdisciplinary curriculum. The curriculum is relevant, rigorous, and real-world since the content, standards, and skills are learned as a result of project-based learning experiences. Then it has self, peer, and other assessments, public audience, authentic assessments. So performances, projects, and multiple forms of media are used for learning and assessment. Also, curriculum and instruction address student diversity. And also in a 21st century classroom, it incorporates multiple literacies of the 21st century. So these are aligned to living and working in a globalized new millennium. After learning the difference between the 21st century classroom and the traditional classroom, let's go back to our question a while ago. How does the curriculum for the 21st century look like? Well, the 21st century curriculum has the following characteristics. 1. It provides appropriate knowledge, skills, and values to face the future. Number 2, it is based on knowledge drawn from research. Number 3, it is a product of consultative and collaborative process. And number 4, support excellence and equity for all learners. So, our 21st century classroom is an active learning environment where students are engaged actively with a course material that considers their strengths, weaknesses, and preferred learning styles. There is collaboration and cooperation that promotes a student-centered environment with mutually respectful relationship among students and teachers. It has a strong sense of motivation as curriculum is connected to the students' interests. It is an outcome-based education demonstrating and ensuring that the learning outcomes were achieved. The curriculum is relevant, rigorous, and real-world. The content, standards, and skills are learned as a result of project-based learning experiences which aim to help create and improve educational outcomes for students and process for effective communication and problem solving. It ensures that the content are based on knowledge drawn from research. As a teacher, one cannot just make an assumption for teaching. It should be based on facts through research that provides necessary information and knowledge needed to solve problems and for decision making. In connection, performances, projects, and multiple forms of media are used for learning and assessment, not just printed materials. Furthermore, it supports excellence and equity for all learners, knowing that the importance of acknowledging students' achievement for them to be motivated all throughout the learning process. Also, the 21st century curriculum is an integrated and interdisciplinary curriculum since it encourages students to see connections and interrelationships among discipline and sources go beyond just textbooks. Multiple literacies of the 21st century which are aligned to living and working in a globalized new millennium such as oral and visual literacy, financial literacy, eco-literacy, media literacy, information literacy, cyber literacy, emotional literacy, physical or fitness and health literacy, and global competences are involved. Through this, the curriculum provides students opportunities to be able to gain knowledge, skills, and values that help them to be ready for the future. Moving further, let's proceed to answering the second question. What are the emerging factors and conditions that will shape the curriculum of the century? So let's enumerate some issues that needs curriculum as discussed by various groups here and abroad. First, we have globalization of economies and independence on international markets. It is undeniable that globalization affects all forms of life on Earth. So there is a need for the school leaders to be able to correctly identify global forces and pressures, adapt to and cope with the large-scale changes that will inevitably be thrust upon them, and ultimately recognize that globalization is both a complex and multifaceted process. In addition, educational leaders need to be aware of the fact that globalization can take on many forms, and it is becoming increasingly evident that they will need to use several dimensions with which to frame their work in the coming years. Then the second one, we have increased concerns and actions about certain issues. Some issues in the world include but are not limited to environmental degradation, water and energy shortages, global warming, or pandemic. These types of problems often transcend national borders and impact many people. As such, the global environment is no longer just the concern of scientists,
policymakers, and politicians. So, some of the ways in which these concerns might be dealt with by educationalists in the coming years could include analysis of how we can learn to be more responsible and sustainable citizens of the globe, how we should define the roles of individuals in a community and their impact on the environment, and the development of an understanding of how we can best encourage, create, and maintain sustainable forms of educational leadership. Then the third one will be increasingly global competition. So nations competing for power block, thus generating conflict but gives opportunities to build alliances and cooperation. In matters of national security, environmental sustainability, and economic development, what we do as a nation and in our everyday lives is inextricably intertwined with what the government, businesses, and individuals do beyond our borders. This reality defines the role of education in preparing all students for success in an interconnected world. So schools are then challenged to set clearer, higher standards and assess students' progress in more creative ways, prepare more productive teachers, and provide effective intervention in failing schools. Then the fourth one is increased global migration and opportunities for working overseas. Migration can change the skills composition in both countries of origin and destination. There is a need to have policies that have relevance in terms of matching education to the demands of the labor market and meeting the increased demand for educational services in both public and private sectors. Then the fifth one is science and technological revolution. So the third industrial revolution, which is generally attributed to computerization and web-based interconnectivity, has brought educators to an environment where access to information is immediate and free, shifting the focus towards active learning pedagogies that place a premium on collaboration with diverse teams in a project-based and peer learning environment. And last but not the least, knowledge economy as a generator of wealth and jobs. So as borders between nations become more porous due to the progress of technology, migration, and a more mobile labor force, each nation must devise a strategic response to promote human capital development in order to maintain economically competitive in the global marketplace. Instructional designs and contents had to undergo significant adaptation to address the local context. It brings with it the opportunity to democratize the education system in a manner that each country can develop its best model of instruction in order to meet the needs of learners and other stakeholders. So those are the issues that encompasses why there is a need to change our curriculum or to develop our curriculum as time goes by.
Now that we know the different factors that shape the curriculum of the century, let's also identify skills that are needed in order to cope up with these changes. So we have here the 21st century skills. The world is changing rapidly and students need to learn to adapt just as quickly as these changes occur. They need to do more than just memorize facts in order to be successful in an increasingly competitive global economy. This is the reason why curriculum must include interdisciplinary themes for the development of essential skills for modern pedagogies and technologies. Now, from the standpoint of the Singapore Ministry of Education, such cluster of competencies or skills are seen in the matrix below. So we have here the four cluster of skills for the 21st century. We have learning and innovative skills wherein its specific descriptions are critical thinking and problem solving, creativity and innovation, oral and written communication. Then we have knowledge, information, media, and technology literacy skills. Its specific descriptions are content mastery, information literacy, media literacy, and ICT literacy. Then we have life skills. So it contains flexibility and adaptability, initiative and self-direction, teamwork and collaboration, social and cross-cultural skills, proactivity and accountability. Lastly, we have citizenship skills or valuing of diversity, global awareness, environmental awareness and values, ethics, and professionalism. Then, on the other hand, Howard Gardner, from his book Five Minds for the Future, sees that the five frames of thinking would help in the development of thinking skills. Each frame of thinking is attributed to the type of mind the learner has to use in order to survive the future. So here are the five frames of thinking: the disciplined mind, the synthesizing mind, the creating mind, the respectful mind, and the ethical mind. When we say the disciplined mind, it makes use of the ways of thinking necessary for major scholarly work and profession. And for synthesizing mind, it selects crucial information from the voluminous amounts available, processing such information in the ways that make sense to self and others. Then we have the creating mind. It goes beyond existing knowledge. It poses new questions, offers new solutions. Then we have the respectful mind. Sympathetically and constructively adjusts to individuals' differences. Then we have the ethical mind. It considers one's role as citizen consistently and strives towards good work and good citizenship. Then lastly, Tony Wagner in his book The Global Achievement Gap mentioned the seven survival skills for the 21st century curriculum. We have here critical thinking and problem solving, collaboration across networks and leading by influence, agility and adaptability, initiative and entrepreneurialism, and effective oral and written communications, accessing and analyzing information, and curiosity and imagination. Those are the topics that encompasses our discussion on Module 8, particularly Lesson 8.1 or the 21st Century Curricular Landscape in the Classrooms. I hope you have learned something from our discussion, and again, I would like to repeat what I have said at the very beginning. Learning is a journey of exploration and discovery, but this time we are guided by compasses rather than maps. And once again, this has been Jackie Lucy Lagos from BSED Mathematics 3 of Negros Oriental State University, Shatan Campus. Have a great day ahead, everyone.